there's actually a shortage of men, which is a problem nowadays as well, is that there is an abundance of straight women that are looking for a significant other, and they're also, because of their clock ticks as well in some way, shape, or form, there's a lot of women in their 30s to 40s or late 30s to early 40s that just can't find someone that's significant other that they really like.
You've been married for a long time. That doesn't make you a better person.
You always have a place to sleep. You always have family. When you go out, you come back, that your bed is warm and you have someone sleeping next to you, You can't put a price on those feelings.
I think it's weird not having kids. I think it's a weird thing to do. I think not getting married is a weird thing to do.
We've both seen far too many people that made a lot of money, but that were single, and they never seem happy.
Women, unfortunately, I think get taken advantage of in society by pushing things on women. I think women were pushed too much to be in the home. They can't have a job. They have to get married early. They have to have 1 million kids.
5 years ago, they said the full-time cost of a homemaker, which would be a wife that's at home making the house, is $90,000 to $100,000 a year. And this was back in 2019. Women shouldn't feel bad if they do want to be a housewife, or women shouldn't feel bad if they do want to go the other route and get married early or have children and be a homemaker. Women shouldn't feel bad about that at all.
So let's dive right in, man. So I think that in business, it's super important to understand the importance of relationships, family, planning. I think a lot of people, when they get into entrepreneurship or sales, they're like, I want to make $1 million first, then I'm going to get married, then I'm going to have kids.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to, whatever with my family. And it's like, man, that might take you a little while. And it might actually be easier to hit the goal if you have more people that you're fighting for.
Yep.
I always think it's super important to increase your why.
There is a bunch of people out there. There's this whole independence push that's happening right now where females or women want to be super independent, I think, which is great, and, become super successful. And then maybe in their 30s or later, they're trying to find a significant other. And same with men, actually. A lot of men are like, hey, listen, I want to get my body in shape. I want to get my bank account. I want to get super, super successful, and then try to find somebody. And I think that's great, to each their own. Personally, for myself, I'll tell you how it was for me. For me, it was, I started in insurance, and I got to a specific point where I felt comfortable. And that was when I was making the transition from $5-6K a month up to making around close to 10 grand a month. And it's 120K a year type of income. As I reached that level, I became more serious. I was hanging out with people that were more serious. I was hanging out with people that were with families, or I saw people with couples, and stuff like that. And
okay.
I felt comfortable at that time where I said, I have the income that I can take care of a significant other. I'm not wealthy or super, successful or anything like that, but I think that I can at least pay for dinner if we're going out to dinner, obviously, or pay the bills or rent or this or that. So I was very serious in finding a significant other, and I was intentional in my dating as I hit right close to that 8 to 10 grand a month mark, because I knew I was like, it's time for me to find someone significant, my significant other, and I want to build life with them, and I want to create massive success with them. But I was right around that mark of floating 8K to 10K a month, and I was still living in a 1-bedroom apartment with my mom, and we were sharing it, and she was sleeping inside on the bed, I was sleeping outside on the couch, and that's when I got serious personally in looking for somebody else.
No, I think so. Reaching the point of financial stability.
Correct. Stability. It wasn't freedom, I would say. I would say stability.
No, it's good, because then you can feel comfortable where you're not strapped.
Correct.
But you don't need to wait an extremely long period of time. Similar type of thing for me. I wanted to get to a point where I was emotionally ready as well. Mm-hmm. I think that I matured, my maturity level took a while to peak. Mm-hmm. I was a real goof for a very long period of time. So by the time I was 24, 25, I was finally mature enough. I was always making money, but I was finally mature enough to actually go serious for that.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was taking a vow of celibacy until I found the right person. I wasn't a virgin at the time, but, choosing to only...
Born again?
I was choosing to only be intimate with someone if I was in a very serious, committed relationship. Yes. and stop kind of playing the field, if you will. And I think that intentionality attracts the right person into your life. Also, not spending any effort into like chase and tail allows you to be way more serious, because it takes a lot of effort, energy, and money to do those types of things. So stop going out, stop Tindering, all that kinds of crazy stuff. And my income grew from that. And then also I attracted the right person into my life. But I think that I like what you said about people being more independent. You were really generous about how you said it. Like, you really were very, very kind and caring with the way you put it. I think that it's pretty dumb when people do that stuff, personally. I think that that's a shallow way to live. I think people are getting sucked in by the enemy of the world, which many religions call it, but it's like a deceptive force. I think that the family is part of being happy. If we weren't raised by a family and we weren't born, we wouldn't be alive.
That's true.
I think, like, I'm going to say, like, I think it's weird not having kids. I think it's a weird thing to do. I think not getting married is a weird thing to do.
Yeah.
I personally, like, if someone can have children, or they have something physically wrong with them, or if they have some sort of like crazy life event, like taking care of a sick family member, there's some like crazy circumstance, I understand. But like for like someone that's making like a couple $100,000 a year, like, you don't want to propose to the girl you've been with for a couple of years and you don't want to have kids with her, you're a weirdo. As far as I'm concerned. Like, and I think that your mind is clouded and your priorities are not in order. What's the point of having everything in the world, all the money, if you have no one to spend it with?
That's a fact.
What are you doing it for?
We've both seen far too many people that made a lot of money, but that were single, and they never seem happy. These kinds of people never seem happy.
You can only go to the titty bar so many times.
Like, they could be very good. They could be 10 out of 10 body and bank account and very good looking. But when they're continuously dating, continuously partying, continuously going out, even if they don't drink, they're just continuously chasing tail in some way, shape, or form. They're not ever truly happy on the inside. We've seen that. You know, money doesn't make people happy. You could have all the money in the world. Yes, you're going to live a life that could afford you things that make you happy, but that the quality of your life, that saying goes, is, you know, gauged by the quality of your relationships. The relationships that you have with friends, the relationships you have with parents, the relationships you have with your significant other. That is the most important relationship. They teach that in church, or they teach it in a temple and stuff like that, but your significant other is number one over everything besides God, or, you know, however you have your vertical alignment that's set up. But you're right, man. I agree with that. I know a lot of people want to do this independent wave. I think that this independent wave has been shoved down a lot of people's throats, and there's actually a shortage of men, actually, which is a problem nowadays as well. Is that there is an abundance of straight women that are looking for a significant other, and they're also, because of, you know, their clock ticks as well in some way, shape, or form. There's a lot of women in their 30s to 40s or late 30s to early 40s that just can't find someone that's significant other that they really like. And it's sad, and it's because a lot of them also went down that independent route sometimes, or things
It's
like
a
that.
trap.
Yeah.
It's a trap, man. It's like doing drugs. It feels great until you're an addict.
Yeah.
It catches up with you later.
Yeah.
It's like drinking all the drinks. You're drunk, you're having a great time. The next day you feel like shit.
Yeah.
You're having a lot of fun, you're partying, you're messing around, you're vacationing, you're 30s, you're living a blast.
Yeah.
Pretty soon you're 50 and alone, and you're sad, and you wish you had somebody. And you can still find someone at that point, but the biological clock is gone. Yeah. Men are lucky that they can have children for longer. Women, unfortunately, I think get taken advantage of in society by pushing things on women. I think women were pushed too much to be in the home. They can't have a job. They have to get married early. They have to have 1 million kids. Now it's the opposite. Yeah. Now women are forced to be single, forced to be bosses. It's like, why can't women just make a decision of having a balanced life the same way that men are? I think that we're less so pressured in society to do it. I think women are really pressured to do that now. It's like, it's almost disrespectful to like have a kid. My wife posted a TikTok the other day of like, Can't believe this one influencer talks about like how great it is to not having kids. And it's like a video of my son laughing and there's all these freaking crazy cat ladies in the comments giving her shit. I'm like, all those bitches are miserable. When they wait till they're like 50 and 60,
Yeah.
nobody's going to want you. You're not going to be able to sleep around. You should have already made a decision, man. And your parents will probably be dead and you'll be really alone. And if you have siblings, they're going to be married. They're going to have kids. They're going to have families. I don't care if you have 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids. I don't care if you wait to have kids. I don't care if you have kids early. I think everyone deserves to have a family. Even if you don't birth your own children, I'm nothing against adoption, foster care, being like a big brother. There's other types of parenting besides just traditional giving birth to a child. I think everyone should experience that. Now that I have a child, it's only been 7-8 months and there's going to be a lot of challenges along the way, but it's a beautiful thing. It's a really beautiful thing. And I think it gets you in touch with a different side of your personality. Same thing with getting married. You've been married for a long time. That doesn't make you a better person.
No, it comes from a different place. The family centered or that type of God centered or those types of things. It's you always have a place to sleep. You always have family. When you go out, you come back. That your bed is warm and you have someone sleeping next to you. You can't put a price on those feelings. I know when I was single and went out. Let's say I went out to the bar or drank or hung out or something and came home. I lived alone, throughout college for a while. I lived in frat houses and wherever we lived in college. So I came home and it was always like, it's me or, I'm talking to friends on the phone. And it's not, I'm not looking for pity or anything, but I'm saying that if I prolonged that, I knew I wasn't the happiest. You drank all the drinks you could drink. You smoked all the smoke you could smoke. You did all the tail you could do, whatever, chased or whatever you did. And those types of people in college. But like once you've done enough of it, you have a tolerance to it. And there's a different type of, puzzle piece that fits when you have a significant other. I think it's very important. So, I'm not against the women that are independent or if they really say, hey, listen, I want to make it a goal that I make 100K plus before I marry someone so that in case if that person leaves me, I can at least feed myself. I'm not against that thought process or people doing that, but the agenda has pushed the envelope so far down this path where now so many people feel that exactly what you said, women shouldn't feel bad if they do want to be a housewife, or women shouldn't feel bad if they do want to go the other route and get married early or have children and be a homemaker. Women shouldn't feel bad about that at all. You'll find someone at the level that you want to find someone at, and you should be able to pursue your passions as well. But I personally think that's an amazing life. If someone wants to have a family at a younger age, or someone wants to, raise kids, it's a full-time job. This is 5 years ago. They said the full-time cost of a homemaker, which would be a wife that's at home making the house, is $90,000 to $100,000 a year. And this was back in like 2019.
Are you saying the cost if you didn't have them home?
The cost of what an absolute, home housewife would do, raising the kids A to Z. So if you were to salary somebody out, imagine if you were a single dad or something, a nanny, and you had someone full time doing everything. So that was the cost then. And I assume with inflation now we're looking at 150K for something like that. Like you can't put a price on that. If you have that at home and you're an entrepreneur as a man, right? It gives you a different level of strength and energy to work off of to create more success. And I think it encourages people, that's what you were leading towards as well. You were saying is, hey, when you have a why or you have something to fight for, as opposed to just fighting for the titty bar.
Yeah, it gets old after a while. And also for like women, why can't you have a job and have a family? Why do you have to pick one or the other? Why can't you build a business and have a family?
That's true.
Lady that owns Spanx. Like there's a lot of successful female entrepreneurs that have children.
Absolutely.
You can build a balanced lifestyle. It's not like the world isn't feast or famine. Everything is like A or B nowadays, black or white, red or blue, Republican or Democrat. Everyone's like sharply divided on every decision. You can have balance in your life. Yeah. There's no reason why you can't do both. And every person's situation is unique. in that example of that woman that wants to make 100K a year, I think that that's fine, but I would push back a little bit that you should never pause love with a external condition
100%.
because you're blocking your potential blessing. What if you're going to meet the love of your life and you're making 99K a year? You're just not ready because you're not making 100K a year. You know
well said, yeah.
Like your thing wasn't like 120K or 80K or 90K. It was you wanted to make sure you were financially stable.
Correct.
Like financially ready. Yeah. That's one thing. But when people tie it to like some crazy number, your law of attraction preventing yourself from meeting that type of person. It's true. A challenge, man. I think that people really hamstring themselves with that. We have a lot of young guys in solar, and the people that I know that I can count on that are the most reliable people have a wife or a husband and have kids. Those are the people that I know aren't going to scheme, aren't going to better deal, aren't going to screw over a customer, aren't going to commit fraud, aren't going to flip-flop for 5 cents because they have stability. So I like building a business around stable people. And the last thing I would say, and then I'll pass it to you to close this out, is one thing I also like to see and why I like working with people that have wives, families, husbands, whatever, children, because you can learn anything about someone by how they treat their kids, how they treat their wife, how they treat their parents, how they treat their siblings, and you can see what kind of people you want to do and not do business with.
Exactly. No, we look at that very closely when we take on partners or look at who that next wave of leadership is going to be in business. So no, I think this is a great topic to touch on. The next thing we were really going to get into is for the young people, financial literacy. So some of the stuff that you should be doing, some of the stuff that you should be cognizant of or aware of as you're starting to get successful in business, as you're starting to grow in business, as you're starting to make, the money that you wanted to make. So, I mean, and this all ties together. I mean, financial literacy, you spend, even though they say, hey, having a girlfriend costs a lot of money or this or that, well, having a wife is probably cheaper than having, 3 girlfriends, So it's, and it's not about it being cheaper or not cheaper, but it'll elevate you to make more money. So, I mean, when it comes to financial literacy, a lot of people are doing the, more month than money at the end of the month. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people are increasing their income, but then increasing their expenses and still not being able to stay above water. So what are some of the things that you've implemented that you think people should really understand as they start to scale their income? Let's say they're going from $5K a month to getting up to making $100K or 10 grand a month, total. So like, what are some big changes or big things that you implemented?
So if you're married, sit down with your spouse. If you're single, just sit down yourself and do this task and go through your bank account and all of your cards and stuff and see exactly what your budget is.
Yep.
So you have to know your budget.
Correct.
Just like you have to know your numbers in any business. So make sure you know your numbers. Figure out exactly what your monthly expenses are. If you're a W-2, your taxes already get taken out. If you're an entrepreneur, 1099, you account for your taxes. Then add up all of your income. From, if you have 1 income stream, 2, 3, however many income streams that you have, get your total amount of income. If it's untaxed income, account at least 20% for taxes and set that aside. So let's say you're a solar entrepreneur, you have monthly expenses of $5 grand a month, and let's say you're making, $15,000 a month selling solar. Okay, so you have $15,000 a month of income. You have $5,000 of expenses, and you have $3,000 set aside for taxes. So you take 15, you minus 3, that leaves you with 8. You have your $5,000 for expenses. What do you do with that extra $7,000? And we can touch upon what you do if you don't have enough money. You make more money. You lower your expenses.
Yeah.
If the numbers don't work out, then you have to lower your expenses or make more money.
For sure.
So assuming you have a surplus, which you should if you're on the grind, of $7,000, I like that gentleman, Patrick Kenny, that you've done business with. I took his advice. He says anywhere from 3 to 6 months emergency fund. He likes the magic number of 5. I like the number of 5 months as well. So you should have $25K in my opinion, set aside for an emergency fund of cash at all times in some sort of high yield savings account that you can get access to whenever you need. So let's say that's $7K extra a month. Do that for 3.5 months so you have $25K set aside before you do anything else. After that, you don't really need any cash unless you're saving for a house or a car or some sort of trip, some sort of like expense that you're going to have to buy something. And then you can do whatever investing that you want. I'm not an investing guru. I'm not going to give anybody any investing advice. Figure out what you want to do and start putting your money to work, whether it's into your business or into like a cash flowing asset, like a real estate or some sort of like equity or crypto.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
100%. I think you laid it out very well for people to understand. Get that 5-month savings set aside first, and then get into step 2. I see far too many people here fail. Is I've seen people either not save the emergency fund or save the emergency fund, and then once they save the emergency fund, they start trying to get fancy, start trying to get into meme coins and make $1 million, start trying to get into trading and make $1 million or something like that. But they don't realize that the thing that got them to 15 grand a month is the thing that they should double down on to make more money. So the number one place that you should invest in after you've created that savings account is, alongside investing in yourself and conferences or in leadership or in books and personal development, that's very important. Alongside that, you should reinvest back into your business. What do you need to do to invest that money to grow and work for you? When we've been running ads for our business nonstop ever since we began, but pretty much nonstop. If we ever stopped ads for like a week or two, then we saw a lag of new blood coming into the company a month later because we stopped ads for a week or two. But when we've continuously done it, it's continuously paid off. So, find those areas specific to your business. It could be somebody in insurance. Okay, where can I invest money? Can I invest money in lead gen? Can I pay for a beer festival and set up a table there? Can I do this? Can I think of those areas that you can invest more? We had our representatives that went and did college fairs, $600 for a college fair, set up a table, got 10 people that signed up that want to come work and knock doors for the summer. Boom, investment $600, return 10 people. Let's say 5 actually start working, 5 don't ever show up or anything like that. Now you have 5 new setters that are setting for you. How much money does that make? How much revenue does that generate? So far too often people get money and they say, I want to become a millionaire. Oh, I want to take this one. I've seen so many in our own company. I've seen so many people say, I want to go trade and do this and make $1 million. I want to do this. No, if you just invested your extra 7K, let's say that you have, back into solar or back into insurance, double down to get more sales, that itself is going to take you to a 50 to 100 grand a month. Then think about your investments. Then think about this. Then think about that. Before I ever invested money in any stock or crypto, I invested back into my business. So there's other ways that you can invest, and not every single investment immediately has an immediate return. We've talked about sowing seeds and we talked about that kind of stuff. But when you invest back into your business, you will see a return far greater than you getting some crazy stock or some crazy crypto. You are the number one asset, like we said, personal development. And a lot of people fail to invest in that. But alongside that, you should invest in your business before you go out and do some wild shit.
That's it right there. That's the best advice of the day.
Yeah.
Crush it.